Hi, Discover Church family. I have a very special guest. I think everyone recognizes her. Sidney Powell's on the Discover show today. I just read briefly. I think everybody knows her, but Sidney Powell worked for the DOJ for 10 years in 3 districts under 9 U.S. attorneys. She was the lead counsel in over 500 federal appeals. And you have a perspective about justice that I think we need to hear. So welcome to the show. How are you?
Thank you. I'm very well, thank you. I'm especially well since November 5th, and we have a hope for the future of our country to reinstate freedom and freedom of speech and prosperity and all the things we lost in the last 4 years of, frankly, oppression.
That what a sigh of relief. I think the whole world breathed a sigh of relief. What an amazing thing. I'm just going to read one scripture. I want to dive into the issue of justice, which I think you have a lot to say. Isaiah 33 verse 22 says, "The Lord is our judge, the Lord is our lawgiver, and the Lord is our king. He will save us." I really think that the church must revive its ministry of justice. We've got to talk about justice in this country. And one of the things that maybe people forgot about, but I still remember, is you were so unfairly treated when the Bank of America debanked you. I mean, how can that happen to you're a well-known person, you're a lawyer, the rest of us don't even know the law that well. Why did that happen and what's the outcome? Are you back?
It happened a couple of years ago, actually, completely unexpected. I have no idea why. I went to get some money out for a transaction by a cashier's check and was told that my account was frozen. I said, "What in the world?" I mean, I've only banked with them since I was 18 years old and they were their predecessor bank. I mean, I've been with them like 49 years and never had a problem. I even represented and was paid by Bank of America when I represented the Merrill Lynch executives in the Enron case that I wrote License to Lie Exposing Justice about. So I've had a rather long-standing relationship with Bank of America. They would not tell me anything. I had to call a number they gave me in the middle of a lobby of the bank and raise unmitigated hell to get the account open long enough for me to take the money out.
And that's it, and you just had to change bank and that was the end of it.
That was the end of it. They just told me they didn't want to do business with me anymore.
And is there any justice for this? Like, are
No,
banks just no.
there's nothing you can do. It happened to General Flynn when he was indicted. It's happened to scads of other people just for supporting President Trump. I'm sure it was, well, I'm relatively certain it was because I was, quote, an election denier and pointed out all the election fraud I saw following the ridiculous 2020 election that's now even obviously more stolen than it was in 2020 when you compare it to 2024 and 2016. The numbers are just staggering. So, yeah, I mean, I got thrown off Twitter. I got cancel culture hit me from every direction. Lawfare hit me from every direction. 19 bar grievances were filed against me in the state of Texas. Dominion sued me for $1.6 million, I think, in the District of Columbia in federal court. Smartmatic sued me for $2.4 billion, both in New York and then in DC in federal court. Eric Coomer, who had worked with Dominion, sued me for I don't even know how much in the state of Colorado. 3 or 4 other people piled on with different federal suits. I mean, one was coming like once a month for multiple months. And the bar grievances also, and then sanctions motions filed against us in Detroit in Judge Parker's court and by Governor Evers in Wisconsin. The Arizona bar started after us. The Michigan bar is still after me. And the Texas bar, after we beat them in 3 years of litigation, just filed a second effort against me to take my law license, all because I dared to stand up and talk about what was happening in this country and call for an investigation of what I saw as obvious fraud based on the massive amount of evidence I was looking at and the people were coming to me with voluntarily. I wasn't asking for it. It was just pouring in on me, including from nationally recognized experts.
Yeah, so that's probably the biggest question that my audience has is what happened to the Kraken?
Well, if you read our pleadings, you will see it in the massive amount of affidavits and expert reports we filed. They're posted up at defendingtherepublic.org, and I would encourage everyone to go there and read the evidence for yourselves. Even more has come out since then. But we also have a wonderful newsletter that people just rave about that we send out 3 times a week from defendingtherepublic.org. And I would encourage everyone to sign up for the newsletter. A portion of it's free. If you want more detail, there's a subscription of just $50 a year, but people write us all the time and tell us how much it means to them, especially our Good News Friday edition.
That's awesome. I'm sure you'll get some support from our audience. They're really great. Defendingtherepublic.org. We love to help you, okay?
Yeah.
So a lot of the people who are watching, they think that you kind of went quiet, and our assumption is probably, I don't know if we can say it in public, but were you threatened? Did they threaten you to try to make you silence you?
I wouldn't say I was threatened. I mean, I was sued for over $4 billion in defamation actions. And of course, Fox News was sued. They sued Newsmax. They sued One American News. They sued all the media channels that had me on to talk about the election fraud. So none of those media outlets would have me on. I mean, what people perceive as my silence is essentially the result of the massive defamation action filed by Dominion and Smartmatic against everybody who said anything about the election.
Wow. It's truly, to me, it's like prophetic end time stuff. You don't think the freest country in the world, founded with the Constitution we have, could oppress its own citizens and the opposition party at that time to this
And I
level.
was I was taken off Twitter. I had to fight to get on Getter, I think, and then finally, after Elon Musk got Twitter, I've been reinstated to Twitter, and I have an
Praise
account
God.
on Truth Social, and I've gotten more active now. But frankly, I've been extremely busy in litigation, literally every day for the last 4 years, defending myself as well as all the work I've done at Defending the Republic. And we've taken on a number of issues there, far beyond the election integrity that we first started with. We've represented January 6th defendants and helped fight for them. We've done a lot of work on the COVID mandate and all of the ridiculous things that happened as a result of that. We represent a number of military members who were wrongly thrown out of the military for their refusal to take the COVID shot. I mean, there's a lot of different projects we have taken on to preserve individual rights at Defending the Republic. And I haven't gone away. I've been working on this stuff every day for the last 4 years.
Yeah. Well, please know that we've been praying for you. We pray for you, General Flynn. We pray for Donald Trump. Let's talk about Trump. Now that he's in, is it the right understanding that he can, on January 20th, can he do what Joe Biden did? He just summarily pardon you for all past cases and future cases. Can he do that? And can he do it for all the January 6th people that are unfairly treated?
He can pardon federal crimes. I was not charged with any federal crime, nor do I expect to be. So there's nothing he can pardon me for. I don't need him to do that. The January 6th defendants, he can certainly pardon, but I think the more efficient thing for him to do on January 20th is to commute all their sentences to time served, because the pardon process is a bit more complicated, and that would enable their release by the next day, January 21st, if he
Well,
were to
that is
commute all the sentences to time served.
excellent legal advice. So then, coming back to your case, is it true then that Biden's pardoned Hunter, right, his son,
Yes.
federally, but some people say, but you can still get him, like, because of the crimes and the laptop, you can still charge him at a state level. But then it almost makes the pardon meaningless, because you could be charged in 50 states for the rest of your life. Is that how it works?
He could certainly be charged at least in one state if there are state crimes revealed on his laptop, and I would expect that there are. That's up to the prosecutors in any particular state or county.
Okay, so you're
But the
not off the
president can
hook.
only issue pardons for federal crimes.
Right. Okay, so we have to make that distinction. So that unfortunately means that you're still battling this for the foreseeable future.
The litigation against me in every jurisdiction is civil litigation.
Oh, it's
So
okay.
yeah, we'll be battling that for a while longer, but I would imagine more and more truth is going to come to light, especially when Kash Patel as FBI director and Pam Bondi as attorney general about what really happened in the 2020 election. And that's what the American people need. We need to know the truth, whatever that is. And if there were crimes committed, then people need to be prosecuted for those. But I'm talking about real crimes, not made up things. We don't need any more made up crimes in this country like they've done against President Trump and others, including me, frankly.
Yeah. So the crime you're talking about, it sounds like treason.
Not necessarily. I mean, there may be some elements of treason to it, but there are also other, I mean, there's so many federal crimes that were probably violated in this process. It wouldn't be any problem pursuing a case against anybody that actually committed a federal crime.
Right. Hey, I want to go back a little bit. God's kind of given us two laptops, right? There was a laptop with Hunter Biden, and people have forgotten Anthony Weiner. Anthony Weiner's laptop case. 9 out of the 12 New York Police Department officers, NYPD officers, were assigned to Anthony Weiner. They all committed suicide. 9 out of 12. You said the crimes are so extreme that they should be handed over to the military. We've got no charges, no felonies, no arrests. This is why people perceive there's a two-tier justice system. And I've got a quote from you. Let me say this. Your quote says, "One of the things, if I were the president, I'd do is demand the Anthony Weiner laptop to get to the most trusted person in the military to take apart everything on it and then start using it. There's a lot that can be prosecuted. I have no doubt on that laptop. In fact, I heard that the New York police officers who saw some of it, even though they're hardened investigators, literally had to go throw up. It's bad."
Yes, that's definitely what I was told by an extremely reliable source. And if it's still in existence, it still needs to be reviewed in detail. Because if any of the crimes are against children, and I would guess that there are some in there, then they can still be prosecuted. The statute of limitations is a lot longer depending on what the offenses are.
Is this something systemic? Are we a country run by a pedophile ring, or is this isolated cases?
I know that domestic violence in the form of sexual abuse of children is far more rampant than anybody wants to acknowledge. I used to work with a women's shelter here in Dallas and was up to date on a lot of information on it. My information is not as up to date now as it was 5 or 10 years ago, but the statistics that I recall are that 1 in 4 children in this country is likely sexually abused. And if you add to that now the rampant human trafficking, had dinner with Tom Homan last night, who is locked and loaded, ready to go to be the deportation and immigration czar. And he said there are, I think the number was 320,000 children missing in the United States of America. And he is going to undertake to find every one of them. He's going to need all of the public to help. We all need to pay attention. We need to report any signs we see of children being trafficked, being with somebody that they seem very uncomfortable with. There's going to be a hotline and a website that he's going to direct people to that we can call and report anything we see. If you see a young woman with a baby out on a street corner selling flowers, she may very well be trafficked. You can call and report it, and we should not hesitate to do that. I mean, it's so appalling and so egregious, it makes my blood boil.
It's the worst thing in humanity. So that's great. So the plan is decentralize, kind of decentralize the evidence, get people involved, get people in social media to report. That's excellent. That's a great plan. I can't even imagine where do 300,000 children go? I mean, that's the population of an entire, it's
City. Yeah,
city.
it's a major city.
Wow.
He said, some of them are in sex slavery. Some of them are just, being grossly, hideously, atrociously abused every minute. Some are in work slavery in factories or whatever, and some are no doubt dead.
Let's talk about the solution. I'm going to hold up your book here, License to Lie. I think you gave me this book, and I forgot to ask you to sign it. So next time I see you, I'm gonna ask for your your signature, America obviously has a two-tier justice system, has a broken system. I kind of think that the church has to rise up and step into its role of the offering the ministry of justice. I think we have something to offer. You could do a parallel legal system. The Jews do it, the Muslims want to do it. Christians haven't thought about that. That's kind of my take on it. I'm almost like I think it's hopelessly broken. But you're in the system. What would you do? Like, what could Trump do in the first 100 days? What would you suggest to him?
I don't think we need a parallel justice system. We have the best justice system in the world. We just need better people to make it work. I mean, I think it was James Madison who said that our Constitution is meant for a moral people. We threw God out of our schools a long time ago, and every day since then, we've gone downhill. You were right about churches needing to get more involved. There's a thing called the Daniel Project that is encouraging pastors around the country to work with I think it's the Family Leader Group out of Iowa with Bob Vanderplatz to talk about righteousness and the way the church should approach different issues in our society so that we take a biblical approach, a Christian approach to everything. We are one nation founded under God, and it's only God who could have divined and inspired the Constitution that we still operate under. And we must get back to the original text and meaning of our Constitution instead of having it distorted by different courts' decisions and even some Supreme Court decisions that have just distorted the heck out of the language of it. You know, God ruled the world with 10 commandments. Most of our laws are devised from those 10 commandments, but we've gotten to the point where there's so many laws. An evil prosecutor, and we have had a lot of those, can find something to pin on absolutely anybody, just like Stalin's right-hand man could do in before World War II and after. So it takes a moral group of people to serve in offices around the country. We've got to vote out those who are not, and we have to have an election system that is based on paper ballots, hand counted, with real citizen voter ID. We simply cannot have any voting machines computerized involved in the process whatsoever, because there's no point at which they cannot be hacked or distorted or programmed to commit a fraud.
Yeah, you just mentioned the 10 Commandments. I got this download probably 6 years ago, 10 Prophecies to Save America. They're based on the 10 Commandments, and it's an updated interpretation or application of God's laws. How would it apply? And to me, the solutions are in the Bible already of how would you deal with the defamation that's going on. You know, that breaks the ninth commandment. Thou shalt not bear false witness is a major, like out of all the laws, 600 laws in the Bible, defaming someone is one of the worst things in the Bible. And yet we just allow this to go on. Perjury goes on unpunished. So I have things like that. Like, how would you deal with the amount of defamation that you've suffered? Is there any law that applies, or do we need to make a new law?
Well, we filed a counterclaim against Dominion for abuse of process in their lawsuit against me. They've accused me of defaming them. We have a defense that we would like to put on, part of which is the truth of the matter asserted, and believe that everything I said was substantially or completely true, which is the legal standard. And I haven't backed down from any of it, contrary to fake news. But it's one of those things that takes forever to go through the system. And defamation shouldn't happen to anybody, and it shouldn't be able to be used in the legal by the legal process either to do what they have done to me. There's a lot of work that has to be done in the whole area of the Department of Justice, and the culture has to be changed from the top down to go back to what I was taught, and that is that you are not seeking convictions, but you are seeking justice when you're a prosecutor. And justice is nothing without righteousness.
See that? I mean, that's you're talking about the revival of the entire country for people to change. I don't know that I can foresee a revival in the Department of Justice. I think that we could pass some simple laws. You know, some other countries have it. Like, for instance, we need a digital bill of rights. Europe has that. And then I have a proposal, and I'm going to run it by your legal mind. Tell me if I'm in fantasy land or if this is possible. Um, I suggest, as part of a digital Bill of Rights, the lowest courts in the land should be authorized to hear cases of defamation whereby the victim seeks modest relief and damages, and more importantly, prompt injunctive relief by ordering search engine giants to remove defamatory search results from public view. You could do this by creating a notice of concerns, easy form, easy, just the victims of online defamation or harassment can complete this form, serve it on the websites, such as internet service providers and search engines. To me, like that's like the founders couldn't think about the digital rights that we need. I think the Bible's thought about it, God's thought about it ahead of time, but we have to update the language of, of what the Bible means by thou shalt not bear false witness. There seems to be no easy relief unless you're extremely well versed in the law and very rich and very patient. Could we do something like an easy form and serve it on the search engines?
We could do something like that. I'm not sure how effective it would be to involve the courts in that since they are overburdened already. But I would certainly think the search engines should provide a form by which that can be done and should be done by people who feel like they have suffered that. I think it should definitely be able to be reported to the search engines and have some action taken.
Like right now, we're at the mercy of these search engines. Every time we get, they monkey around with us. They allow defamation to happen. They suppress our views, and then when you appeal, you're at the mercy of Alphabet, of Google, and they never seem to play fair or nice.
Well, I think the Pam Bondi Department of Justice is going to take a serious look at some of the big tech companies and take appropriate action against them that should ameliorate a lot of your concerns.
That's
And
awesome. Do
back on
you
the
have?
church issue, I think Eric Metaxas has written a new book about the very issues of the need for our pastors to start talking about the Bible as it and we need Christians involved in our government. You don't check your faith at the door when you walk into your office as a member of the Senate or the Congress or anything else. We need to carry our Christian principles into our jobs and into the voting booth with us, and we need to vote the Bible.
Absolutely. You're singing my tune. So now that we've got Trump winning, what should he do in his second term? And specifically, like if you could advise him on the first 100 days, what are your top things that he's got to do in case he's listening?
He needs to make things happen very quickly to shut down the border, stop all the illegal immigration, begin the massive deportation of all those who illegally entered. People need to start now packing their bags and leaving if they came in illegally, because if they are caught here illegally, there's a 10 or 20-year bar on when they might come back in. So if they want any hope of coming into the United States lawfully at any time and not being put in prison, they need to leave voluntarily now.
Can I add on that? Because I have that written for years in my book that if you are an illegal immigrant who votes in a federal election, you should never become a citizen of this country. To me, it's treason. Again, maybe I'm not using a
Well, it's a
strong
whole
word.
separate crime. I mean, first of all, it's a crime to illegally enter the United States. It's another crime to vote when you're not entitled to vote. I mean, it's a means of election fraud, voter fraud, and it shouldn't happen. So, I mean, I think those people should be prosecuted. And there's going to be a major effort to deport all the dangerous criminals immediately.
Yeah. What about citizens, American citizens who engage in leading, organizing, arranging, paying for, or promoting mass voter fraud? What should happen to these American citizens?
Those need to be prosecuted as well. And those who played any role in human trafficking need to be prosecuted. I think the Department of Justice is going to look into that. All the NGOs, as they call them, that have been draining federal funds to engage in human trafficking need to start checking their own business practices and stopping what they're doing, or they may wind up in the crosshairs of the Justice Department also. It's outrageous that they have been facilitating, encouraging, aiding, and abetting illegal entry into this country under the guise of NGOs, many of which are funded by George Soros, or even worse, our own taxpayer dollars being used against us to infiltrate the country with people from 144 other countries that have absolutely no business being here and are highly questionable and not tracked, recorded, or whatever. They're a danger to the country.
So on that subject, why can't we do something, or can we do something like Hungary? Hungary is just like ban Soros. He's persona non grata. He cannot lead. He cannot do anything. He can't open his organization there, the Open Society. If we know that he's involved in criminal activity, he's funding illegal immigration, is criminal, why haven't we just dealt with him?
I wish I knew why we hadn't dealt with him. I mean, it takes a lot of fortitude to take on somebody with his tentacles in so many different places. But I think that's something that definitely should be done by the new attorney general. If there are crimes that he has committed and his organization have committed, he should be prosecuted for them. Again, I'm talking about real crimes, not made up with ones, and not targeting people, but finding out who's behind the criminal activity that's been infecting our country for the last 4 to 20 years, frankly.
I'm frankly encouraged that you, after all this, the injustice you've been through, you have a lot of faith in the current system. You think it has the manpower and the morality to execute all this?
It can have, with changes that have to come from the top down.
Well, that's good. Well, that's good news. Was there anything else that you would advise Trump in the first 100 days?
You know, when he announces something he's going to do, the other side starts planning ways to stop him from doing it. I mean, he was talking about, I think he and Elon Musk were talking about making people actually come to work. So now Schumer or somebody's trying to get a bill pushed through that allows 42,000 federal employees to work from home. That's ridiculous. If they can't show up for their jobs, they shouldn't be having jobs. The federal buildings are empty. We're paying enormous utility bills and everything else to keep those spaces functioning. And if people aren't in them, we don't need them.
Yeah, I got the figure last night. It was 7,670 odd buildings that are completely empty, owned by
Oh my goodness.
the government. And then the people who show up to work, they counted out of the 6%, they counted the security guards and the cleaning crew.
Wow.
So it
That's really remarkable. I think that can be cleaned up in the first week or two.
maybe the last question I have for you that you can enlighten us on is, one of the best things I think about the US Constitution is this clause where we are allowed to question our leaders and we can impeach our leaders. I wish that this constitutional power was used more correctly. Like when I look through history, it was used to depose high-handed judges. And they didn't even have to commit a crime. They were just high-handed in the way they dealt with a person or a matter. That would be the one I'd use to clean up the government. Can we use this? Can we use the power of impeachment? Can Trump do it?
We could, if there's the political will. The problem with the impeachment process is that it requires the House of Representatives and the Senate to get on board with using that measure from the Constitution. And I'm still hearing lots of waffling and willy-nilly crap out of our congressmen and senators in particular, with respect to some of Trump's appointments, which just makes me livid. I mean, did they not see the results of this election? Who do they think they are? They work for us. And why? I mean, they need to get on board with confirming his appointees immediately, if not sooner. I think it's absolutely ridiculous. He's entitled to his choice of cabinet members, absent some glaring, outrageous defect in the person. He is entitled to his choices, and the United States Senate needs to get behind him 100% right now, particularly the Republicans, even if they want to call themselves rhinos or whatever. They need to get on the train.
So enlighten us on that. Is the process of accepting his appointees beginning from January 20th, or it can start now?
No, it has to wait until January 20th. I mean, he started putting the names out there so people can start doing their vetting and research into whatever they want to look into. And the nominees can go ahead and meet with senators and do things to expedite the process. But the Senate, I don't think, can actually vote on any of them until the 20th.
are there appointees that you like? Like, for instance, Pete Hegseth, right? I just saw him as a Fox News guy. You like him? You don't like him
Oh,
for that
he's
position?
has a whole lot more depth than a Fox News guy. That gives him great connections, and he's very articulate. He's a brilliant man. He's had military service. He's from Ivy League schools, which frankly I tend to hold against him more than not. But
Right.
he's got an excellent education, and I think he'd be a great Secretary of Defense. I think he'd go in there and do exactly what President Trump knows needs to be done, and that's cut out the crap.
Yeah, that's what I
And
heard from General Flynn. Everybody likes him. That's great.
yep, yep. I think he's a great pick. I think Kash Patel is an excellent pick for the FBI. Kash has a lot of experience in government and with government corruption. I think John Ratcliffe is a fabulous choice for the CIA. I've known John for 30 or 40 years. He was a U.S. attorney here in Texas. He's a heck of a stand-up guy, a good man, a good person, great intellect, knows what he's doing. I think he's another wonderful choice. And I heard that Dave Warrington has been chosen to be White House counsel. Dave is a terrific guy, another good man, very bright, lots of experience from every angle. I think he was a U.S. attorney in D.C., so he's got the prosecutor's experience. He's been in private practice. He represented the campaign. He had a little part of the Flynn case with me. He's a great guy. I feel much better with President Trump having Dave Warrington protecting his back than I felt about anybody that was around him 4 years ago.
So you think Trump has really changed? Like the picks are better the second time round?
The ones I've heard and am on board with are definitely much better than the first time around. I think he knows that it's now or never, and we've got to stop. We've got to take off the kid gloves. We've got 4 years to play hardball. We've got to get paper ballots hand counted with real citizen voter ID before the next election and get that in place everywhere, even city, county, everything. And people are going to have to start working on that right now. The citizens need to start working on that right now, and they need to start on their congressmen and senators to give President Trump the support he needs to carry out the mandate we gave him on November 5th.
Yeah, this is probably one of the weirdest things is that after he won, we are almost hearing nothing from the Democrats. Do you think something is brewing, or is there just chaos in their party?
No, I think different members of the Democratic Party are working to create all kinds of problems. I
think
don't
so.
have there's no telling what they have in store. But the good news is the American people saw all their hoaxes in the 4 years of President Trump's prior term, and they're not going to fall for this crap again.
Yeah. Well, it's been a pleasure to have you on, Sidney. I want to ask our audience, please get prayers answered and pray the chapter on justice. You know, there's still lingering issues in Sidney Powell's life. I know Clay is another guy. Clay Clark is still being sued by Dominion. I just want to pray justice for all of you, and you've stood up for our rights and our freedoms, and so you have our back and we have your back. I want people to go to your website again. Please repeat it for the audience.
defendingtherepublic.org, and the book you can buy at sidneypowell.com, SIDNEY Powell.com.
All right, remember that, Sidney, SID, not Sydney like in Australia. All right, Sidney,
Yeah.
SID. Very good. Okay, well, thank you for your life and your work for this republic, defending the republic. And I hope if there's some breaking news that you'll be available to comment again. God bless you.
Thank you so much, Steve. Good to see you and visit with you again.
All right, guys. Remember, no matter what's happening, keep looking up.
Is our nation on the decline? Will America be judged? Or will God have his own great reset? What if God is about to birth Christian nations all over the earth? What if Christians are about to be given authority to rule with the King? Are you ready? Christians have lost a theology of justice. The church has forgotten the template for good government. The time has come for transformation. Pastor Steve Cioccolanti's book, Trump's Unfinished Business, contains 10 prophecies to save America and any nation whose leaders will obey. Get a copy of Trump's unfinished business, 10 Prophecies to Save America, for yourself by going to Amazon.com or scan the QR code on your screen. Listen to what readers are saying. Alan Parker, president of Justice Foundation, said, "We need pastors and preachers to read this book and apply the law of God correctly and preach it again to America and to the world." Dr. Dennis Lindsay, CEO of Christ for the Nations, said, "The insights of this book will provide hope for the future of America and preserve its calling as a lighthouse to the nations." And Rod B. wrote on Amazon, "Excellent, insightful, and offers solutions to a broken world." Get Pastor Steve Cioccolanti's best-selling book on Amazon.com or scan the QR code on your screen today.